He ripped off a piece of tape and stuck it to his mouth. Then he picked up the plastic bag and put it over his head. Then seal all the seals. To resist the survival instinct, he cuffs his hands behind his back, then lie quietly on the ground. As oxygen runs out, the plastic bag is gradually attached to the sucked face. The intense suffocation began to cause him to struggle in pain. And Bessie does this. They don't want to end their lives, but to save a man who died 6 years ago, a murderer who committed a heinous rape and murder. The prisoner's name is David Jare, a once famous university philosophy professor. However, he is gentle and full of economy on weekdays. But 6 years ago, suspected of raping and murdering his colleague and friend, Constance, and the methods used were extremely cruel, outrageous. So this very contrasting case shocked the United States. It captured the headlines of the news media. David was successfully arrested shortly after. David, who was initially arrested, offered no explanation. In the end, he was undoubtedly sentenced to death. David is also on death row, after 6 years of darkness, awaiting execution. Just 5 days before the execution, he suddenly retracted his confession, and claims he is not the murderer. He was framed. So this case that should have been settled, once again pushed to the forefront of the trend. All the media had an opportunity. I hope to interview David as soon as possible, but David is no exception. Reject all these media. I invited a magazine in New York, come for an interview, and ask. The magazine had to pay him $500,000, and the owner of the magazine didn't even think about it. I agreed to David's condition, because after all, the value of this news, much more than $500,000, a lot of money. But again, David made a strange request. He names, I want a female reporter from the magazine to come and interview, and this person is Bessie at the beginning of the video. Unclear Bessie. I was also confused by David's wave of operations. Due to time constraints, Bessie immediately set off for Texas with her assistant, and as we walked, we looked up information about David. After learning the case, Bessie is even less convinced that David is innocent. After all, he was everywhere at the crime scene, and a large amount of his DNA was also found in the deceased's body. Even the neighbors witnessed it on the day of the crime. David left his home, but the assistant on the side has a different opinion. David was at school. He won the first place in philosophy at Harvard University, or Rhodes, recipients of scholarships. At the age of 27, he became a university professor. It's not an exaggeration to describe him as an academic elite, and his wife is a well-known woman. Father-in-law is also the ambassador to Spain. Someone with such an extraordinary IQ and resume. How could it be at the crime scene, leaving so many traces? The method is even worse than that of a fool. But Bessie believes that everything should be based on the facts. All the evidence at the crime scene points to David. He deserves it. The two also quarrel inexorably. They don't know, but what they didn't expect was the truth behind the whole thing. It's enough to make them unforgettable for a lifetime. The two went from day to night, and just as they were about to take a break to use the toilet, they found a pickup truck following them. Behavior is very suspicious and strange. Man in the dark, after a meaningful gaze at them, disappeared into the night. The next morning, the two finally arrived at the prison. There are only 4 days left in prison, so Bessie didn't have time to rest. I immediately started an interview with David, and the first question he threw is to solve your biggest question. Why is David looking for himself by name? Original. Bessie spared no effort some time ago. Prison also protects the privacy of juvenile offenders, and this extremely high professional ethics. It caught David's attention. Then David began to talk about his past. It all started 6 years ago. An ordinary day. David is giving a passionate speech in class, but suddenly a female classmate who was often late, Pauline, interrupted, and for the progress of the class, David ignored her. Returning to his seat in Berlin, his deskmate handed him a warning letter. Original. Berlin is not only late and absent from school every day during school, and his poor grades, it's not enough to graduate, so the school decided to withdraw him. So wait until after class. Berlin goes straight to the podium, and David made a request that surprised him. Faced with such obvious temptations, David was stunned for a moment, then slowly approached him and said, David, who has always been upright, refused the girl's request for frivolity. However, his honest approach this time, but it became his life. Fuse into darkness. At night, Dawei coaxed his son and nanny to sleep alone at home. Explained the precautions. Then I went to the school staff party. Many colleagues asked his wife. This makes Dawei a little embarrassed. David and his wife spend less time together. The wife always assumed that her father was the ambassador to Spain. Frequent travel to and from Spain. But David knew this. He has already landed there. It's just because my son David doesn't want to break it. David learned from his colleagues that Pauline, the girl he rejected, was fired in the afternoon. At the same time, the voice did not fall. Pauline appeared behind them. Colleagues know that the coma is not good, and fled the scene. Drink 3 rounds. David's accumulated psychological pressure began to be vented. Just changed the usual maturity and stability, even in front of many people. Compete with other teachers who told dirty jokes. More explosive. Not long. After drinking too much, David got up and went to the bathroom. However, after his convenience, but found Pauline standing behind him at some point. Berlin is getting closer to David, although he repeatedly refused. But the thrill of alcohol had made him carried away. Haven't reacted yet. Berlin has arrived in front of him. living with his wife for a long time, Dizzy David. That's what happened with Berlin. In the process, Berlin even made a crazy request for David. Rip his clothes, bite his body. About this, and David just thought Berlin was thrill-seeking. Just do as you're told. But he didn't expect. This act of indulgence already won the bidding price, and the price was enough to destroy David's life. In addition to David's status as a professor, he was also a strong advocate for the abolition of the death penalty. In a group called Death Row Guardians, with friends and colleagues, Stan shared the leadership roles, and today, they're going to have a debate with the governor. This event, and it was crucial to pass a law that abolished death, but because of the drunken affair with the schoolgirl last night, regret and the condemnation of conscience made David uneasy. He didn't even remember important information from the debate. Constance also noticed David's abnormality, infuriated to learn of his behavior last night. Debatable, they can only suspend the quarrel. Came to the studio where the debate was broadcast live, although David was not fully prepared, but he was a college professor. Used the weight of learning in your head, spit lotus flowers at the debate, and very quickly, we had an overwhelming advantage. Watch your offensive payoff. Eager to show himself, David begins to chase after victory. He expounded on other states that have abolished the death penalty. The crime rate is much lower than in Texas. This shows that the legal system in Texas, there are serious problems in itself, and a flawed legal system. It will become a weapon of indiscriminate murder. And he was talking. David's mood began to get more and more emotional. Mouth faster than brain attack. Finally let him show his flaw. Also fell into the governor's trap. David, who has long been red-eyed, becomes speechless in an instant. The governor, who should have been at a disadvantage, turned defeat into victory at the last minute. And David walks out of the studio. The two had a violent quarrel again. They could have won big, but because of David's arrogance and inadequate preparation, lose it all. And just when the two were quarreling, two police officers suddenly found David. David Rape is arrested for rape, and it was Berlin who called the police. He cited shredded clothes and bite marks on his body as evidence, accusing David of sexually assaulting him. Strangely enough, maybe Berlin just wanted to teach David a quick lesson, so it didn't take long for him to drop the case. And having said that, the 2-hour interview is coming soon. Wallen's approach is slightly more childish, and he was indeed framed at the time. Maybe he's not as vicious as he thinks, although there are some doubts. But Bessie didn't believe David, because that's just his side of the story after all. The two men argued and left the restaurant. I had no idea about the cowboy in the pickup truck, watching them secretly again. It turns out, David didn't pick the wrong person, although Bessie did not believe his side of the story. But the job of a journalist is to find the truth. Bessie was still before the interview the next day. Came to the scene of the rape and murder case. That's Constance's house. Further understanding of rape and murder cases. However, sadly, this place has already been bought. It became a paid tourist attraction. Bashir people can only shell out $20 tickets. Listen to the detailed introduction of the docent. The details of Constance's murder. This place is like a museum. Each key location is sorted by number. I learned from the docent. David often spends the night at Constance's house, and addicted to alcohol. When Constance was discovered, dead naked in the kitchen, a pair of rubber gloves were placed next to the body, mouth sealed with tape, a white plastic bag over his head. Yeah, the weapon that directly caused Constance to suffocate. His hands were handcuffed behind his back. The death was extremely tragic, and here's what's even more chilling. The key to the handcuffs. It was an autopsy, found in Constance's stomach, in front of Cons. There is also a tripod without fingerprints, but the camera above is gone. This shows that the killer recorded Constance suffocating in pain, the entire process until death, but the police never found the camera, and that tape, and the cowboy who was always by their side. What identity is it? The next day during the interview, Bessie mentioned it to David, the tragedy of Constance's murder, and David has also investigated this cruel method. It's a forced confession used by the secret police in the past, although not very humane, but it works. David used to be the leader of the Firth organization, now facing the death penalty. It's hard for him not to connect the two things, judging from the tripod without fingerprints at the scene. The other party did it on purpose. He wants David to understand there's evidence of his innocence out there, but like the key in Constance's belly, can only hide in the dark forever. Die with the host. Can you find the key to freedom now? It's up to Bessie. Then David, tell his follow-up story again, although Bryn dropped the charges. But David's life, but earth-shaking changes have taken place. Wife doesn't need to pretend, just divorced him. He also took his only son. Only a puppy doll of his son was left behind. In business, and his reputation plummeted. Not only did he lose his job as a professor, when looking for other jobs, they often hit a wall. It doesn't matter if David's really innocent or not. What matters is what other people think. David, because of a single thought, left with nothing. Betrayal. He couldn't accept such a drastic change. Numb yourself with alcohol every day. I'm living my life in a daze, even because of the problem of alcoholism. He also lost his son's visitation rights. Fortunately, his only old friend, Constance, did not desert him, always by his side to cheer him on. This also allows David to regain some confidence in life. Soon after, he started attending AA meetings, trying to get out of trouble, dedicated to the abolition of the death penalty. But he just regained some form. A phone call between Constance and other colleagues shoot him back to hell again. A colleague's remarks directly denied David's efforts. Make him understand, it is impossible to wash away the stains on the body. He drove out of here like crazy, drunk again. He took advantage of the alcohol to call his ex-wife, ask her if she can let her son say a few words. But the ex-wife heard him talking nonsense, disagreed with anything, and hung up the phone. This directly broke David's emotions. Until the next day, Constance, who had just woken up, found David with nowhere to go, holding the doll left by my son, slept all night on the recliner by the door. David poured bitter water into the house, but I didn't hear a response for a long time. When he turned his head, but found that Cons had fainted at some point. After arriving at the hospital, David just found out. Turns out Constance had severe leukemia. The days are numbered. Hear this news. David's sky is falling. He thought he was the unluckiest man in the world. I don't know. Constance is the one who really needs help. Speaking of which, David was in tears. Until now, he has been unable to forgive himself. Looking at the truth in front of David, Becky was completely confused. The heart begins to shake. He is unsure. This man in front of me, is it that cruel and perverted murderer? And that's invisible. Let him know the truth behind the whole incident. Also full of curiosity. Must walk out of prison with mixed emotions. Rendezvous with the assistant, who was divided into two groups. The assistant also investigated. Actually, David had a chance to have his sentence commuted, but the lawyer he hired, but a complete pig teammate. It's even more of a joke in the industry. During the litigation phase, he committed it many times. Fatal mistakes that beginners don't make. As a result, David missed the opportunity to commute his sentence. A number of top lawyers have volunteered free help with David's defense, but surprisingly, all of them were rejected by David. The reason is simply because the current lawyer and David are good friends. Bessie was speechless when she heard this, but now time is running out. The interview is about to end. Overnight they brought the $500,000 David had asked for. He planned to hand it over to his lawyer the next day, but just as they went back to the hotel with the money, Bessie found that her door had been opened. There was also a roll of tape deliberately sandwiched in the middle of the door. See this obviously provocative scene. Bessie couldn't help but get a chill in the back of her neck, but he still had the courage to open the door, and there was a videotape hanging over the bed, and the bag says it's for Bessie. They immediately started playing the tape. As expected, this is the very video recorder that disappeared. Constance died of asphyxiation on video. It's just that this tape doesn't seem complete. The video clip also ends very abruptly. In that video, Constance's painful journey from birth to death still gave to Bessie. The shock left him breathless for a long time. Now it can be concluded that David must have been framed, but the assistant thought about it all night and couldn't figure it out. Why hasn't David been executed yet? The murderer wants to release the video in a self-exposure manner. This is a bit too illogical, but Bessie has a different opinion on this. The two people at this time, I finally felt the real murderer behind the case. It's so thoughtful that it's outrageous. Today is the last day of the interview. Before they can start, they have to follow the agreement. $500,000 to David's lawyer, but not long ago, the mysterious cowboy reappeared behind them. Just as the assistant hurriedly took out the notebook to record the license plate number, he turned again and disappeared. But now there is no time to worry too much. Messi hurriedly handed over the money to the lawyer first. I also mentioned the videotape in passing. The lawyer said, this tape is not admissible as evidence, because it's incomplete. And the home of Constance has been turned into a tourist attraction. This kind of film, anyone can buy it for 20 yuan. Bessie can only give up temporarily, but just as he came downstairs, but accidentally saw the cowboy who was following them, he hurried back to the car. Let the assistant follow him. See if you can find something. I went to prison to continue the interview, but unfortunately, passing by a railway, the assistant is still lost. Fortunately, Becky learned about the origin of cowboys from David. He used to be a key member of the anti-death organization. His name was Dusty, but he was one of the few fanatics, act with extreme recklessness, always cause trouble at events. In the end, the organization can only fire him. And David also said, in his first court session, Dusty also testified in court. He told me that David had a drinking problem, and most importantly, he was also deeply in love with Constance. Hearing this, Vicky also has a new guess, and David went on to tell the story. Although Constance is terminally ill, but he was still suffering, dedicated to the ideal career, but reality failed to do so. His desperate efforts paid off in vain. Instead, watch the death row inmates die one by one. This also brings Constance, whose life is coming to an end. Complete emotional breakdown. He dragged his tired body home. Cons, whose death is approaching, also sighed helplessly. His short life was filled with regret and regret. Even one foot into the gate of hell. Have yet to start their own family. Except for 4 passionate relationships in college, his life seemed to be uneventful. And David, who was also in a low point, is not. They are like 2 homeless orphans. Snuggle up and keep warm. Slowly approach each other like lovers, facing this beautiful moment. Constance finally released the double pain of body and heart. The next morning, David Forefoot leaves Dusty. The back foot arrived at Constance's house. At night, the police arrested David. The reason is that after David left, Constance was found dead in his home. This statement by David make Bessie more certain. The real murderer is most likely Dusty. And that's the end of the last day of interviews. The thought that tomorrow's David will be unjustly killed. At this moment, Bessie seemed very unwilling and regretful. The only way now is to find that complete videotape. It is possible to save David, but there's not much time left for him. He can only go back to the hotel, watching the footage over and over again. Hope to find some new clues, but I saw it at night and the next morning. Still no big discoveries, just a tired vest. When you are ready to wash your face and take a break, a towel thrown on the ground made him suddenly think of something. He hastily pulled up the sleeping assistant, came to the crime scene again, gave the staff some money. Bessie wants to recreate the process of Constance's death because he watched one night's footage. Although there is no substantive harvest, but a strange phenomenon was discovered. Bessie suddenly felt a sense of transparency. To confirm my conjecture, a terrible thought popped into his head. Becky decided to play himself. Risk your life. 1:1 replica of the whole process of Constance's death.